Hi, my name is Chef Todd Engstrom. I'm a culinary instructor here at San Jose State, and today I'm going to demonstrate poached eggs for you. First thing you need for poached eggs is a pot with some water in it. And I've got a pot here with a quart of water in it, and I've gotten it to about 180 degrees. You can test out your water with a thermometer, but generally when you poach eggs, you want the water to be about 180 to 185 degrees. A good way to tell that is to look at the pot, and when you see a bunch of bubbles forming around the bottom of the pot, it's pretty close to the temperature you're looking for. So I've got my hot water ready to go. The next thing we want to do is we actually want to acidify the water with a little bit of distilled vinegar. Any type of acid will work, lemon juice, white wine vinegar, etc. For our purposes today, we're using distilled vinegar. This is approximately 1 tablespoon of vinegar, which is enough to correctly acidify about a quart of water. So we're going to add in our vinegar and give that a little stir to incorporate. The reason why we're adding vinegar into our water is to help the egg and the proteins in the egg to coagulate once they enter the liquid. If we don't have an acid in the water, the proteins will not coagulate quite quickly enough, and the egg kind of separates out into the water. And you get these things that are referred to as spider legs. So we want to acidify our water. You also don't want to add too much vinegar to the water because it can alter the flavor of your egg. There's a couple different techniques that people use to put their egg into the water. First, all techniques call for putting the egg into a small container. This way you can get it really close to the water without having to dump it in. Now, it's very popular nowadays to use what's called a swirl method to put your eggs in. People will swirl their water and create a vortex, and they would take their egg and drop it right into the middle of the vortex. And it actually does help the eggs maintain a round shape. So if you want to make one poached egg at a time, this is perfectly acceptable. In production kitchens, you're never practically making one egg at a time, so very rarely is the swirling method used. More often, we gently lower the egg into the water and try to form it very, very gently with a slotted spoon. So my water is at the correct temperature, and I am going to gently lower my egg into the water, and I'll add another one. I'll try to be somewhat quick about this because I want my eggs to all cook at approximately the same temperature. Now, what you want to do is let those eggs sit for a moment or two. You can gently shape them with a slotted spoon if you like, but you want to make sure after they've cooked a little bit that they do not stick to the bottom of the pot. So we're going to give it a moment here and let them cook a little bit before we loosen them from the bottom of the pot. It is possible to do poached eggs in advance. When they're cooked to your liking, you would remove them from the water, or actually slightly below your liking. Remove them from the water and immediately put them in the ice bath. This will do two things. This will wash off any vinegar flavor you might have with your egg, and will also immediately stop the cooking process. Because poaching eggs is a rather lengthy endeavor and takes some time to do, a lot of times poached eggs will be made in advance the day before, and then the day of the day that you're going to use them, you would pull them out of the refrigerator, lower them into some warm salted water to just get them warm and serve. My eggs have slightly cooked here. I'm going to go down and try to gently make sure they're not sticking to the bottom of the pot. And what you really want to do is be able to see kind of your eggs floating around at this point. Okay, I've got them loosened up, and we're going to let them cook. Generally, it takes between 4 to 6 minutes to poach an egg. Some people prefer them with the yolk a little bit more runny. Some people prefer them with the yolk a little bit more cooked. It's entirely up to you. After they cook a little bit more, we'll pull them out of the water and test them for doneness and see where we're at. There are a variety of dishes that call for poached eggs. Probably the one that most people are familiar with is Eggs Benedict, which is quite delicious, which takes a poached egg and you put it over a muffin, typically with Canadian bacon. Put your poached egg on top, and then some really luscious hollandaise after that, and a pinch of cayenne pepper. I can gently pull my egg out of the water here and slightly press down on the yolk, and I can tell it's not ready. So we're going to let those continue to cook. After your eggs have cooked, you want to gently pull them out of your water, and if you're not going to shock them in an ice bath and you're going to serve them immediately, you want to tap them on some paper towels. You can also rinse them off if you would like to get any kind of vinegar flavor out of the egg. You can put them into some warm water and then dry them off. Either way works. We've added the correct amount of vinegar to our water today, so I'm not going to do that. There's not going to be really any vinegar flavor that you'll be able to detect. You can check my poached egg again. Starting to firm up. Ideally speaking, a correctly poached egg should have the whites set and the yolk runny. They're getting pretty close. I'm going to give them a couple more minutes. It's very common, in especially more formal restaurant settings, to actually pull the cooked eggs out of the water and then trim the white. As you can see, even though I have acidified water, the whites aren't completely uniform around the yolk. So a lot of times in upper end restaurants, those whites will be trimmed off so it maintains a more round shape. Starting to feel my yolks getting a little bit firmer, so we're almost there. You want to make sure when you choose the vessel to cook your poached eggs in, to make sure that you don't fill it up with too much water. There's no sense, even with this pot, to fill it anywhere near the top with water. It's not going to cook your eggs any faster, and it is indeed going to make the job of poaching your eggs a little bit more difficult. Quite commonly, pans that are much shorter than this and much larger around are used to poach eggs, which is perfectly fine. I would guess about 30 seconds longer, and we should be ready to go. Some people actually add salt into the water to help add flavor to the eggs. This is something you should avoid doing because salt in the water actually inhibits the coagulation of the proteins in the eggs and defeats the purpose of adding the vinegar. Salt can always be added afterwards. Now my yolk has firmed up a little bit. I can see my white is fully set. So my eggs are done poaching. I'm going to tap them onto a paper towel. Get some of the water off of them. Now certainly at this point there's a variety of different things you can do with these poached eggs. You probably want to add a little bit of salt and pepper just to season it up. And then we want to check to see if we've poached our eggs correctly. As you can see, the white is fully set. All this, as I mentioned previously, is trimmed off in more upper end restaurants. Next thing we want to make sure is we have a nice runny yolk. Which we do. And this is how you poach an egg.